And if I told you that the Bible you have in your hands, isn't it complete? What whole stories of faith, miracles, and prophecies have been deliberately hidden from you for centuries? What sacred words were considered too dangerous to be heard? Get ready to find out the secrets they didn't want you to know. Hey guys! Welcome to a journey through the dark corridors of biblical history. Today we will unravel a mystery that echoes through the centuries. Why were certain sacred stories silenced? Why were divine voices drowned out? Prepare, because some truths are more disturbing than we imagine. For centuries, the story of Tobias has intrigued scholars and faithful, with his narratives about angels, miraculous healing, and extraordinary trips. However, despite its edifying and inspiring character, the Book of Tobias was the target of heated debates in the past. Some questioned the authenticity of the reports, raising doubts about the divine origin of the stories told there. This uncertainty about the book's inspiration contributed to its exclusion from the official biblical canon, letting many wondering what valuable teachings may have been lost over time. The history of the Maccabees dates back to a turbulent period in the history of Israel, marked by the struggle for independence and religious freedom. The books of the Maccabees narrate the battles of the Jews against foreign rule and the restoration of the sacred temple in Jerusalem. These heroic and inspiring narratives have been preserved over the centuries, but have not always been well received by all religious currents. The inclusion of the Maccabean books in the biblical canon was a reason for controversy, with questions about their historical authenticity and divine inspiration. Despite the divergences, the stories of the Maccabees continue to echo as symbols of resistance and unshakable faith. The Book of Wisdom, also known as Solomon's Wisdom, is an apocryphal work that offers a profound reflection on divine wisdom and justice. Composed in the Hellenistic period, this work presents philosophical and moral teachings that challenge traditional conceptions. However, the innovative and provocative nature of the Book of Wisdom generated controversy among scholars and religious leaders of the time. Their doctrines, which address themes such as the immortality of the soul and the relationship between virtue and suffering, were considered dangerous by some groups that feared the impact of these ideas on religious orthodoxy. This tension between the search for truth and the preservation of traditions raises profound questions about the role of censorship in the transmission of knowledge and the formation of the sacred scriptures. Ecclesiastical, also known as a Siracid, is a Bible book that contains a collection of teachings and practical advice for everyday life. The authorship of this book is attributed to Ben Sira, a 3rd century BC Jewish scribe and wise. Despite its relevance and popularity among the faithful, Ecclesiastical faced resistance from some religious groups due to theological and doctrinal issues. Some leaders questioned the divine inspiration of the teachings contained in the book, arguing that certain passages could contradict other sacred scriptures. This controversy led to the exclusion of Ecclesiastical from the Old Testament Hebrew canon, resulting in its preservation only in the Greek and Latin versions of the Bible. Despite the historical divergences, Ecclesiastical remains a valuable source of practical and moral wisdom for many Christians around the world. Baruch is a biblical character who challenged the conventions of his day by prophetically recorded the words of the prophet Jeremiah. His book, known as Baruch's book, was the target of controversy due to his prophetic nature and the challenging messages he conveyed. Baruch not only served as a faithful scribe of Jeremiah, but also became a messenger of divine warnings for the people of Israel. However, the inclusion of Baruch's book in the biblical canon was questioned by some religious leaders who feared the impact of prophecy and exhortations contained in the book. The tension between the acceptance and censorship of the Book of Baruch reflects the challenges faced by the prophets and their followers in the transmission of the divine message in turbulent times. Peter's Apocalypse is an intriguing apocalyptic text that tells mystical visions and revelations about the end of time. Unlike other apocalyptic narratives, this book presents amazing details about the fate of souls after death and the torments reserved for sinners. The intensity of descriptions and the symbolic nature of the visions has made Peter's Apocalypse targeted by heated debates among scholars and religious leaders of the time. Some questioned the authenticity of the visions, while others feared the impact of these revelations on the faith of the faithful. This tension between curiosity for divine revelation and the fear of heresy led to the exclusion of Peter's Apocalypse from the official biblical canon, leaving his legacy wrapped in mystery and speculation over the centuries. The exclusion of certain books from the biblical canon throughout history is related to a number of complex factors, ranging from theological issues to political and cultural influences. The uncertain origin of some of these texts, such as Judith's book, raised doubts about his authenticity and divine inspiration, which generated heated debates among scholars of the time. Moreover, the narratives considered challenging for religious authorities, such as Judith's story and his courage before the Assyrian enemy, were often interpreted as threats to orthodoxy and established authority. This tension between the preservation of tradition and the opening to new interpretations led to the censorship and exclusion of books that could offer valuable insights on the diversity of voices and experiences present in the Holy Scriptures. The tension between censorship and freedom of religious expression shaped what we consider as the sacred scriptures today. For centuries, religious and political authorities have exerted control over the dissemination and interpretation of sacred texts, determining which narratives would be accepted as part of the official biblical canon. This careful selection reflected not only theological concerns, but also interests of power and maintenance of the established order. The censorship of certain books and the exclusion of certain passages highlight the complexity of relationships between faith, politics, and culture in the formation of the sacred scriptures. The clash between the preservation of tradition and the openness to new interpretations reveals the challenges faced by religious communities throughout history in the pursuit of divine truth. During the centuries where the Bible was compiled and canonized, political power played a crucial role in selecting the books that make up the Holy Scriptures. Religious leaders and government authorities often worked together to determine which texts would be considered canonical and which would be excluded. This collaboration between the Church and the state reflected not only theological concerns, but also political and social interests. The choice of books to be included in the biblical canon was influenced by reasons of power, ideological control, and maintenance of social cohesion. The censorship of certain texts and the exclusion of passages considered subversive or controversial illustrate the complex interaction between faith, politics, and culture in the formation of the sacred scriptures. Faced with so many intriguing stories and characters that have been censored over the centuries, we are confronted with uncertainty about what may have been hidden from our Bible understanding. Are there lost reports, hidden treasures, or unknown truths that could transform our vision of the sacred? The history of biblical censorship reveals not only the challenges faced by the former compilers of Scripture, but also invites us to question the canonization process and the motivations behind exclusion decisions. By reflecting on the legacy of these forbidden narratives, we are urged to seek a broader and more inclusive understanding of the divine, embracing the diversity of voices and experiences that may have been silenced over time. May this journey through the mystery of biblical censorship inspire us to explore new horizons of knowledge and wisdom, unraveling the secrets still kept between the lines of the Holy Scriptures. If these revelations have moved you, if you feel you need to know more about the secrets that have been buried in the story, so you can't stop here, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, because we are just scratching the surface of a much deeper and more disturbing truth. Share this video with who you think you need to wake up, and tell me in the comments, do you think there are still truths being hidden from us? The journey through the secrets of biblical history is just beginning, and the more we excavated, the more we find out that some truths were buried for a reason. The question is, are you ready to crave them? Until the next mystery.